To my guest now, Bernard Sabiti. He's a political commentator. Good morning and Happy New Year. Where have you been?
I've been around, actually.
I see.
To you. Yeah.
Thank you for coming. David Pulkol, one of the... Are you about to be installed king of the Karimajong? I even see you with the Vigalia and so on.
We don't have kings, just that you're putting on your necktie. And we also from Karamoja have our own neckties. We can adjust, we can fit. And that's the beauty about being Karimajong. And I'm not ashamed about it. Because before I became a Ugandan, I was Karimajong.
Before you became Ugandan. So you're Karimajong first and then Ugandan? I thought you're Ugandan first and then whatever else.
Sorry, they are building blocks of a country called Uganda. There were people who were Banyankole.
So what's more important, that you're Karamojong or that you're Uganda?
They were Bachiga, they were Choli, Teso, what? So we must recognize this.
Which is more important to you, David Pulkol? The fact that you're Karamojong or the fact that you're Ugandan?
My dear, depending on where you're
You don't have
from.
the answer.
No, I have the answer. Because
clearly don't have it.
Because the process of becoming Ugandan was fraught with many problems. It's just now that
which is more important to you?
We are just beginning now
Ugandan
to be
or
called
Karimajong?
Ugandan.
It's a very simple answer.
We're just becoming Ugandan. But if you cut here now, 99% Karimajong.
I actually like
in this blood here,
because that's how we
99%.
Be honest.
Maybe that's what the problem is. That's why we brutalize each other whenever an opportunity shows up.
Here, because look, the process of look at this reshuffle even. You look at the tribal mix. Where's Uganda in it? Just kindly tell me.
So if they perpetrate that, that means you perpetrate it.
Meaning,
bring this together.
that
let's talk the army reshuffle.
I hear you.
Let's talk the army reshuffle now.
Yeah.
Did you see this coming, David?
After Kasese, yes.
Why so?
Even before then. Because there are 5 things, Chief, in this thing you must understand. 5 messages I get out of this reshuffle. And it did not just drop from heaven, from the blue, just like that. No. He's been working at it. 1, you can say that there is a purging, final purging of legitimate command of UPDF. You know what purging means?
Certainly.
And therefore,
I'm not necessarily agreeing with what you're saying, but...
I hear you, but what I'm saying here is that those who have risen through the ranks through experience, through blood and metal, bullet and metal in the field, and risen up with that expertise over the years, and the seniority, are now giving way for what I call GMOs, genetically modified officers.
Is that a bad thing?
Now,
many of you have been clamoring and saying the old guard needs to go so that the young tax can come through the different positions
I hear
of government.
you, which young tax? If it is a proper mix. If it is GMO, meaning you are 12 years in the army and you become a brigadier, and somebody is kept for 12 years as a brigadier, marking time, while somebody is being fast-tracked. Look at Mubadi, promoted 3 times in 1 year as a colonel, okay, and then brigadier, and proposed to Gulu for 3 months as a division commander, 4th division, and within the same year, major general, chief of general staff. And now what? Within a short time.
Deputy commander.
You must be a GMO. This is the point I'm making. Look at this one now has been catapulted to skip lieutenant general position into a full general. So it is time for us to double click these ones who are promoted beyond their level of competence. Are they good for? Are they good for the army? Are they good for the country? Will they be good for themselves? The last time we saw the late Kanchiriho and Muhoozi, the son of the same president, commanding an operation in Garamba. These are GMOs promoted, but 36 billion. What did they bring up for us in Garamba against the NRA? A guitar, a bed of konyi, food stores burning. You saw that. And you lost a MiG, this boy from Kumi who was piloting it, and you burned 36 billion to get Konyi's guitar. What is special about special forces in the country today? So when you look at GMOs, when they go to fight, they fight like lieutenants. They fight like majors because that's what they are. And so this type of skipping and favoring some people and skipping others is not going to be good for the country. It's not going to be good for the army. Secondly, the personification, the personalization of the army is taking place, because then the GBization of the army from PGBization, if there is such a word. Now, when PGB becoming a ground for raising officers. The moment you become a major, you're promoted, you're taken to CMI like Aronda, the later Aronda, like Moses Raktarate, like the Kavumas, like the Mubadis, like the David Moses. Like the list is endless, Chief. So all these have roots in being guards of the president and guards of the personal family. So their loyalty is first and foremost to the individual and the first family. The second loyalty is to UPDF. The third loyalty is to the country.
Okay.
Now, an army must have loyalty to the country first. Second, to the army. Third, to the regime. The regime can change. But this one now, our even civilian control of our armed forces comes under question now. Because then, those who are going to the top are really questionable in terms of their loyalty to the country, to the institution, and first now their priorities to the individual. So is this a personal army?
Let's
is
talk a bit of
somebody selling
politics
his
now.
bulls?
David Pulkol is very good at security matters. And
I was
that's why
going to give you
things
five.
this way.
I was going to give you
I'll
five
get back
issues.
to you.
Let me stop at the two.
Let me bring Sabiti here. Read. You have a political pulse on this. What politics do you see in this reshuffle?
I think I will agree with Mr. Pokol. What he's saying actually is that leaders, especially those with a revolutionary history, do not tend to keep military people in one position for a very long time. There are genuine reasons for that. We've seen it in Cuba, we've seen it in the Soviet Union under, Stalin, and it's part of the revolutionary character. In a way that if you keep a military person in one position for a long time, naturally they will want to create a power base. And if you are a president or a revolutionary leader who wants to keep tabs on what's happening in your military all the time, that should concern you. So we see this, it's not the first time it's happening, and actually in the history of the UPDF, I think with the exception of this FDC president now, I think who served as the army commander for 10 years, we do not see army commanders or senior military officers serving in the same position for over just a couple of years. The reasons for that is that the president, a military man who understands the character of his military, he has said that before, so I'm not putting words in his mouth. He knows exactly that if these senior officers maintain the same position for a long time, they create a following, they start cultivating a cult of personality within the institution, to the point that if there happens to be some sort of an idea around an insurrection, it's very easy for such an insurrection to succeed, because you have very many chiefdoms or fiefdoms headed by different individuals in different corners of the organization. What do you do as the commander-in-chief when you have all those centers of power that have different loyalties? You actually become undermined very easily. And I think some of the incidences that have happened in the UPDF over the last couple of years have rattled the president. You've heard of rumors of attempted coups, incidences that come out of nowhere in different military barracks. And you just ask yourself, why is this happening? And then you see Kasese, a person like General Katumba. I think the president, or probably Katumba himself, is realizing that he's too good a man to serve, to have continued serving in the institution that the UPDF has become. Because it's clearly clear that if you are a rational person and a person that is still cares so much about the rule of law, about the old character of the NRA, which is civilian friendly, civilian based, you clearly, the space for you is becoming narrower every day in the institution. I am sure there are so many people within the military that were outraged by the incident in Kasese, and some of them came out actually and said so. One of them is this guy, the presidential advisor, I think, on Buganda affairs, security matters in the Buganda region, whom many people call a buffoon when he's speaking. But actually, absolutely, yes. If you follow his remarks and his behavior over the last couple of years, he tends to be speaking to a certain strand in the military that shares his view. He might speak it in his own funny way or unserious way, if you like. But clearly, even recently, actually, he said that some of these younger boys that have been promoted, he said, I think yesterday, that he's not going to be commanded by these younger boys. That is what he calls them. So that shows you that the old guard from the NRA the original 20-something that went and started the war. And then these young Turks, as you call them, that have come up in the 90s and even the early 2000s. Imagine, somebody has been in the military for maybe 10 or something years and is rising so fast. That creates resentment among some of these guys who have been there for so many years, but they've never been promoted in any significant way. You remember a soldier, I think a captain, who raised that question when Muhoozi visited Somalia, and I think during a Q&A, one of the soldiers that has been in the army for a couple of years actually asked him, but can you explain this abnormalizing of certain people when others actually are not going anywhere? You know what happened to that guy? I think he was put on a plane the next day, brought here. I do not know what they did to him. But it shows you that there is no tolerance for dissent in the military. And these senior officers who are very experienced, a person like Katumba actually joined the NRA almost when the NRA had captured Kampala. I think it was 1986. So you clearly see that there are certain people who do not see him as one of them, okay? And when you see his record of service, he has been a very reasonable officer. When he was the head of the police, you know that is the best of the police we ever saw. And why was he removed from the police? You also know the story, because he was considered not to be tough enough. So one, I see an attempt by the president to consolidate his authority over the military. And secondly, I think he's trying to remind everybody who calls the shots.
Who calls the shots, indeed. David, it's the first time, like he says, we are having somebody who was not a part of the struggle. Yes, Katumba Mala joined it late, but he was a part of it, the NRA struggle. But David Muhoozi clearly was out of the picture, and we're beginning to see this. Kasirye Gwanga said severally, will not salute this kind. Do you see a similar happening within the army? Do you see disarray now that there is a young person risen through the ranks astronomically?
I think the president is anticipating that, and therefore, as you promote what I call GMOs, okay, genetically modified officers, because of, you must be, how can a chicken, which is only 3 weeks old, be 3 kilograms? Okay,
those are the ones you eat in supermarkets nowadays.
And you know what comes with it in terms of cancers and so forth. So, so UPDF is going to suffer from this. Like, I've just given you only one case. But let me come back to, where is the national character in these promotions? The Constitution commands these institutions of the state must have a national character. Do you see any Sabini there?
What, are we going to have every tribe in this country represented? Even though I see your point, because you know, there's Muhoozi, there's Kandoho, there's Nabasa, there's another Muhoozi.
You know, they have developed a thick skin. Even if you pinch them, they don't feel anymore. But they think citizens don't see this through. They think we are all fools. Hey, they are mistaken. But point number two, this is a point I'm seeing here in terms of national character. So now, when Museveni says that this country was only peaceful when the Bachwezi were in charge, so, and therefore, is he pursuing Chwezi nationalism? And therefore, by giving us grands and grandsons of Chwezi, and therefore you're making this place more peaceful, excuse me, go back to your drawing board and see who you are, who we are, where we have come from, and where we are going as a country. This country belongs to all of us. The third issue is, Kasese brought two things in light. UPDF Act is built on chieftaincy, chief of personnel and administration, chief of military intelligence, chief of logistics and engineering, chief of medical, chief. And therefore you have you have CDF, and you have a deputy CDF, chief of defense forces. These are chiefs. But where do you smuggle in command of special forces command? You know, like special forces command. When the whole thing is built around chiefs, is it Africa Command? Is it Pacific Command? And these combined elements, it has become an army within an army. I think it is important now, even as you promote, you know, you take away Muhoozi and then bring Nabasa, a lieutenant colonel, to head something equivalent of a division.
He's been promoted to colonel.
I hear you, even if it's colonel. These are field command positions, okay? So it means this one you have taken to be, can you imagine, senior advisor, 40 years or less, okay? Senior advisor, a drop of your own liquid, becoming your own advisor.
Oh, come on. You're now, going below the belt.
I am telling you this because this is nepotism to begin with.
Okay, make the point that...
because if you're promoting your own son and you're giving your own wife and you're putting your own brothers, you're putting your own... If this is not nepotism, what is it? If this is not ethnocentrism, what is it? So let's call it for what it is. And I think it must be reminded, he cannot deny that it is his son. Okay? So the point here is that your son has become a senior advisor. Let's double click the word senior. Senior to who? Then in charge of special operations. Special operations, Special Forces Command. He was still in charge of special operations. Only that this time he's going to take most other special operations in intelligence, special operations in politics, special operations in diplomacy. Special operations is, we need to double click that folder called special operations. But anyway, put that aside. Kasese brought that if you have Commander 1, meaning a CDF, you see SCA, Commander 1, and then reporting the Chief of Commander-in-Chief. Then you have also Special Forces Command reporting directly to the Commander-in-Chief. So who is the commander here? This is the point. So Kasese brought it clearly. Katumba, gave 4 hours notice and was making arrangements for army trucks to go and take away what would be collateral damage, women and children, and those innocent within the kingdom, to take them away so that they do not fall, so that they are not trapped in this thing. And then Muhoozi is said to have given 20 minutes and then attack. So now, Katumba was right to say, I was not involved. Because if you as Commander 1, your orders are violated like that, and then you have a president who's calling. So, and then you have this one in Ima. So the whole thing was a mix. So for me, Katumba Wamala has gotten out smartly, because what he did in that Kasese, he exposed those who are personalizing our army, those who are misusing our army, those who are responsible for taking innocent blood, and therefore those who have increased the number of orphans and widows in Kasese. He has exposed them. Now, and therefore those who are exposed are not happy. And so to show that they are not happy, you take Katumba to be a junior minister. When Aronda was taken out of the army as army commander, as CDF, he went as a full minister. Why are you taking this one as a junior minister? Look at J.J. Odong, he was an army commander. Where is he now? A full minister.
Well, he began as a junior minister.
I hear you. You can say all what you want to say now on this point, because it's not from the same tribe. Can we now say that when you take a Muganda away from CDF, you make him junior?
You know what you realize this debate,
no,
even though you have a point, but you see now when you try and split hairs, people begin to think,
these are
wait
issues ordinary people see through.
Let's talk a bit about the Muhoozi project now. There was a time when debate about this project was rife, and everybody thought, okay, Muhoozi project. Then, after a bit of time, it dissipated. This man has been appointed senior presidential advisor, special operations. I interviewed the spokesperson of the army yesterday. I said, okay, so what exactly is his role? And all the long and short that he said was, I don't know. It's not very clear, and some feel he's now being set up to slowly but surely penetrate politics, and the grand plan comes through. Is that what you see?
I think maybe before I answer that, let me try to be a little less mischievous on why the president has made these decisions. Let me look at the sunny side of things. Because my other theory could be, maybe the president is serious about this Kisanja Hakuna Mchezo thing, and because of the excellence that General Katumba has exhibited wherever he's been put, maybe he's putting him in charge of the infrastructure development of this country. No. By the way, that's a legit idea, because there's a lot of mess in the infrastructure, and that looks to be the core interest of the government in this Chisanja. And this railway thing, there have been a lot of mess. The way he took the military to NADS to make it operation wealth creation. Maybe he thinks that Katumba can actually do something. These projects that have stalled in works and all these grand projects of dam building, roads building, maybe, to be fair to the president, he thinks that General Katumba can actually make a difference there, because I believe the president actually wants really to leave a legacy, especially around infrastructure. That's his language these days.
Why not make him a full minister? At least to be able, in a commanding position, to do that.
These days, titles don't matter. In fact, the powerful people don't even appear anywhere.
I know
You know,
he's a
in State
humble
House,
man.
if you want to see the president, do you go through his spokesman as natural as it would look, sound? People who have influence, who can take you to the president, don't even have titles. It doesn't. That's the nature of hybrid regimes,
But you have to go through
neo-patrimonial
relatives to get there.
regimes. So
And
now,
Katumba is not a relative.
about the of course we understand the
I hear
issue
you.
of nepotism. You know, in highly militarized states like Uganda is, the issue of trust and survival is what is important. And so across Africa, you go in any state house in any country in Africa and you look at the people who surround the president. They are the people that they think will not betray
Go
them.
to Dar es Salaam here.
But I want to hear you on the Muhoozi project, Bernard.
Now,
Yeah.
the Muhoozi project, I think, for me, the way I look at things, really, it appears that, you know, Muhoozi obviously is an adult, is a person who makes his own decisions. Of course, he has become very powerful, and everybody knows he's the president's son. So it's not far-fetched to actually include him among the people who possibly could succeed the president if something happened or the president decided not to go forward. But in terms of the positioning that he has been placed into over the last couple of years, you clearly understand why some people are concerned. And I agree with Mr. Pukol that if you have your son, he has this division, or I don't even know what to make of it, because
It's a full division or more.
it looks like he almost an independent.
It's a unit of the
institution
army.
within the
It's an army within an army.
You
Well,
can
some will say that.
So
It seconds officers to
I
other
think
units of the
you
army.
understand why people are jittery. You know, what is this man up to? And now when you make him a special advisor in charge of operations, special operations. Special operations means, for example, telling the president where to attack or which serious military decisions to make, which I think is almost the role of the command, the
CDF.
senior most commander, the CDF. So, but as I told you in the at the very beginning, that's what military leaders do, especially those with a history of revolutionary character, because you want to create competition at the top. So everybody is actually trying to fight for influence, for your ear. Then that shields you from, because if there is a clear hierarchical organization below you, actually you might find that it's too late to find out certain things. If institutions are working, the reason these leaders never want institutions to work, when they work, then they take the shine away from them. Okay? They are no longer the most powerful people. So that's why they create competition, all these layers of power below them, so that these people can keep fighting against themselves and competing for the president's authority and, ear. Mobutu did that perfectly when you look at what some of the
Congo
books.
Mobutu.
Yeah. Mobutu would actually deploy, like, he would make you like his intelligence chief, and then add another layer of intelligence people to spy on you, and then create another layer of intelligence people to spy on those spying on you. You understand? So sometimes there is an excerpt I
Gaddafi
read
did
in the book.
Bokassa did the
People, these officers would meet in his office unknowingly, going to report on each other. Yet they had no clue that actually he had deployed all of them against each other. And in that way, he managed to rule for over 30 years, because there was never there was no chance for a coherent plot to develop against him. So I know maybe the chance for that in the Ugandan military is next to zero, but you can never be sure, especially when you are heading towards 35 years of one man in power. What do you think these guys who also shed their blood and saw action, you think they don't have ambitions?
Very good question.
Anyway, can I come back
As
on
we
this
wrap it
Muhoozi
up.
thing as I wrap it up? So we saw baby Muhoozi transform from egg to become larva when Jeje Odong and Mutagamba.
When does he become pupa?
Listen, he's not just, he's now moving from pupa to adulthood. He's not butterfly, he's ready to fly. But the point I'm making is that Jeje Odong and Mutagamba were taken hostage by one-alleged terrorists. And who did you see crawling the steps of that opposite parliament? Baby Muhoozi, that to rescue. Trying to move to fame. Did it work? Who was this terrorist that he had a knife? Have you seen that terrorist being brought to court? Was it a setup? Then there are many such cases where attempts to make him catapult into something, including Garamba, but it didn't work. Operation Lightning Thunder. There was no lightning, there was no thunder in Equatorial Forest of Garamba. So now, then you come in now by taking him aside, and then there's this thing called crime preventers in every village now. But there are officers in Wandega as a CEO. Is it a limited company? Who is this CEO? So then those who started it understand even in Masindi, they said you're going to meet your next president. A cream of crime preventers. And who comes in? Muhoozi sits there taking questions. So at that point, some of them left and say, you mean so? So by bringing Muhoozi now to be senior advisor for special operations, you watch. We lost General Keta recently. He was a representative of the army in parliament. Watch this space. If Muhoozi is not going to fill that place, maybe they'll get ashamed now.
Let's watch and see how things go.
Maybe they'll get ashamed now that I've spoken. But definitely he's on the rise to take more political posts. In the last election, he said to have sponsored some young Turks to go to that parliament. Some of the people they funded directly under Muhoozi's influence are in that parliament. So it's time, as you finish this job in the military, you're a student in Makerere, you are the only one allowed to recruit people in special forces, in the protection unit of the president. Now, he's reasoned with them, and therefore he has now put them where they are. And is it about time to change to political as well, so that one foot in the military, one foot in the politics? His father may only hand over two things to Muhoozi. Two things. One is the coercive elements of the state, bullet and metal, the coercive elements. The second thing is money, because they have made everybody else poor except. But to try to hand over the political influence of the son,
let's
father,
watch and
mother,
see.
Son.
Gentlemen, thank you for sharing your thoughts. David Pulkol and Bernard Zabiti. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Coming up is my opinion.